Well, I'll tell y'all that as I upload the last video where this was worked on, I think I will record another one and work on this other one while that one uploads. So as for the work we're going to come along here, I'd say there's probably little places. This one kind of has a burn between the sleeve cuffs. Think we're going to take care of that, and think we're going to do all the little rest of the detailed work on this as we go a little further. There's always little chances that prices could go up this year. We never know how anything's going to be sold, how it's going to go, what it's going to take. So I say it's just a time when business is essential here. I always enjoyed learning and reading about all these people and the history they left to us, and especially the old Father Nicholas tale. I mean, all the little names he's carried over the years. I tell y'all that there might be little stories I tell while I carve along on things, and wanted to mention what I'm grateful for is that I see I've gotten more subscribers to my YouTube. That's just a blessing in itself, and seeing that we're probably going to grow a little bit more of an audience dependent just upon how much algorithm we get, and a little work shall make its way into us and see how we do about things. There's not a lot of people in this world we have to please with what we do, and so I say that this is just one way we make about things here. I don't know what this weekend is going to bring. Probably going to be back to helping my mama with the cabinet, maybe be putting it together again. And I say that there are just some things that I'm hoping to kind of get taken care of sooner or later. They're going to need a little help with the dishes after supper today. Dad's got his meeting, his Thursday night Bible study at their church, and Mama's really gotten really tired for lots of reasons. I kind of forget what all she said she's had to do or deal with, but she's just had a lot to do around the house lately, I think. And with all the ways we just kind of try to get things ready for the niece to come over, there's just the little works that make our way into us, you see, and how they do the things they do in us. And I say there's just some of this work that comes a little bit of a longer, farther way than we know. And I tell y'all that this is just one of those places where we see what the work does to us. I tell you, there's little sweet things that happen in life, and I'd say that sometimes, just sometimes, there's just little things where, little questions come up, and people, all they want is just little answers, and it's hard to always come up with the exact answers to things people ask, but I say that there was an Instagram I was just watching, and probably wouldn't tell you every little detail about it. I don't even remember the girl's name, what all she posted, but I tell you, it just kind of seems like it's rather a generational thing, you know, and sometimes, just sometimes, we don't always understand exactly everything that everybody does in everything they post, everything that gets said, everything that gets demonstrated, everything that gets acted out. And I'd say that, you know, my life has just been a whole different story than that. I'd say I don't quite understand everything, you know, getting to the point in my life where I'm getting old, my mind is getting tired, can't think of things as deep as I used to, and I say that, you know, that's kind of gets a little strange what we see and what we hear, what we read. I mean, there's just a lot of craziness in this world. A lot of it we don't quite understand why it is or how it is. And people are just gonna be a little strange to us now and then. You know, I've made choices in my life that kind of create my anxieties these days. There's some anxieties I've had ever since I was younger, just because I was always autistic, you know, but I say, you know, we get a little older in life and there are things where, you know, sometimes little things just remind me of what a young man's fantasies once were and how those young man's fantasies just eventually become a seasoned older man's horror stories. You know, there was a certain friend I had who, I mean, I guess you would say I was vending at shows at the time she was still around, but wasn't really considering it a business just yet. The fact that she went out of my life was kind of the reason I started getting more business oriented. We never dated, we were just really good friends, and I tell you, I'd be getting too personal if I told you all much as to why things didn't go so well, but I say that this was just a good opportunity for me to kind of make some changes and go down the business way with things, you know, and with all the stories I have to tell about that, it's going to make itself a longer way to go. Good thing here is got rid of some little burn marks from around the hood and the ruffle. I say that there's things in life that kind of make us think, you know, and finally this is how much I've gotten away from the head and try to kind of make the little cut to where it goes down the side and shows a little Santa Claus. That's how it's going to freaking go to the limit and show us all a little bit of a time when we work our way through this and out of this and in this. Oh, the little work it's going to be, I say, make itself be a bright shining day, turning cold gray ash to hot burning flames. And in this moment, we got to get past where we just see a little bit of a way that we come along to make it all flattened out here. And in my days, you know, I think about all the old Facebook pages I used to have back when I used to call myself the Autistic Rev and had like Jonathan D. Parks, aka the Autistic Rev's music ministry, the Aspie Pulpit, and had pages like the Autistic Rev's Aspie Crafts and things like that, where I'd come on just to display my work. It wasn't really a business then, it was just kind of a page just to kind of show and have my work up for people to kind of look at like it were a museum or something. That was kind of the way I worked about it in those days. And I mean, I tell y'all something, people, there were things I used to do just to try to be funny in those days, just to try to see how people would respond. I'd probably post a lot of political matter, and even just not because I supported it or believed it, but because I wanted to see how people would respond to it. Just get people's reactions like I did, and probably would say it just kind of stirred up a lot of dissension on the pages. And even in those days I probably considered some of it to be a ministry, and I always thought that just because some pastors were political, I always thought that even as an evangelist I could be so as well. I always thought I could come on there and even call myself a reverend and bring politics into the whole deal and things like that. And of course there were pastors and preachers in their own church pulpits who were doing that stuff, and coming down to where one guy finally commented to me on one of my posts saying, "You shouldn't get so political if you want people to take your ministry more seriously." Of course, it wasn't really all about being taken seriously. It was just all about kind of being arrogant and showing off in those days. I tell you, I try to get past that stuff at a certain point in my life. Sometimes I think, as far as people are concerned, my reputation with them is not the same. I've done a lot of different things in different ways just to kind of get different kinds of attention from different people, and sometimes it just kind of caused me to bring so much more upon myself that wasn't all that good in the long run, because with all we say and all we do, I'd say that it's just best we kind of stick with our own calling. I kind of discovered this wood carving and this art to be my calling, and there's just so much that we're going to have in our life, and see how it's all going to work its way out to us. And in my life, I've done a lot of shows, done a lot of crafts, made a lot of things just to show them off, just to show them to people, just for people to see, just for people to look at. Sometimes even a few things for people to buy. Sometimes even gave people things as little gifts. And so I say there's just a lot of life lessons we sort of learn, like we did from the videos we watched. Sometimes some of us, we just do little sweet, unusual, and unexpected things because it's kind of like how they say that the kindest people out there, they often are the way they are because the world has been cruel to them, and they don't want other people to experience what they themselves have experienced. I can tell you all, in my lifetime, I've been taken advantage of. There gets to be times I see little friends of mine get taken advantage of too, in ways almost like I used to be, and kinda makes me feel horrible for them. But sometimes, I mean, some of us people who were stubborn ourselves when we were younger, it's really so much harder for us to teach anybody else anything. And you know, sometimes when people seem like they can be stubborn just like you were, it just gets a little bit harder to deal with them and who they are and what they do. I'd say there's probably not much around here that I do for a living, but would also say that I work in a school cafeteria to earn the money to have a business, and then I work under certain conditions that get a little cruel here and there. There comes a moment when the raw deal gets over with, and finally coming down to what we finally really need things to be. Of course, I'd say on this video we talk about how we have those Christmas in July shows coming up. I do want to mention it is already the 1st of June today. So, and those shows, they're not till the middle of July. So, I'd say we probably got about a month and a half to work. Feel like as far as this is concerned, I'm just about getting rid of all the little burn marks from the rotary tool and getting all the little detail done out of this that needs to be in it to make itself work for us, for all the better in us, and see a little happiness in us. And so we all got a little work to do, make it so we see a little light in us, show us how we work ourselves and go a long way. And then we all try to, you know, in our lives, be accountable to each other, you know. That's what I try to do, you know. And there's times when all the work shall make its way around and finally make it so, let's see what it's going to come down to. Finally got all but these last burn marks here. Some of these ones we got here, like right below the hem of the garment. And that's some that Jesus Christ always said was touch the hem of my garment, you know. And people wanted to be well, that's what they did. They touched the hem of his garment and they got better, I say. You know, there's a lot of stuff out there where lots of miracles have been done different ways, and people have all seen things different ways in different places. Some things work and some things don't. Some things just don't happen the way we figured they would, the way we thought they would, the way we hoped they would. And so I say that this is where we're coming down to what we really think that things really should or ought to be. And we're coming to the point where we're doing a little bit extra work into these buddies and making them so they're going to be better pieces in the long run. As for now, I believe I've gotten things done away. I've gotten rid of about as many of these burn marks as I could. And it's almost like how it is when you're doing certain jobs at your work. There are things you cannot do perfectly, but it's always good for you to kind of at least make them clean and better than they were. Because I tell y'all something, people, you're not going to make anything perfect in life. Nothing is ever perfect in life. Nobody is. So, as for how we got this carved along, I'd like to say that I appreciate y'all coming on. Appreciate y'all watching. We got a few more shows to come up, and I'd like to say that I've got plenty more videos to share as well when it comes time to record them. Thank you, and goodbye.